Welcome everyone to the EUIC AEOS Cup 2024 Pokemon Unite Team Report. What we're going to be going over today is a small preview of how the event is going to work. That is going to be starting several hours from now if you're watching this live. You might be watching this later on. We're going to go over how the event works, a little bit of it, a bit of update about myself. I'll show you guys the tier list of the Pokemon I think are going to be popular at this event. But the main thing, the ring finger of the event of today's video is we're going to be going over the 8 teams that received a direct invite via the play-ins. So these are the 8 teams that won their region's play-in events. The regions are North America, Latin America, North and South, Brazil, OCE, EU are the 6, and then 2 additional teams were added from Japan to make a total of 8 teams, right? These 8 teams will bypass the Swiss round, the open bracket, and directly go into the group stage. So yeah, let's get started. Does this work? Boom. A little bit about myself. This year, I'm not competing. I took a small break from competing. I might be back next year. Maybe I'll be back at the end of the year. You don't know. But my team had to, go our own ways, and I wanted to go maybe in a different direction for a little bit. So I won't be competing. For reference, I and the rest of Team TTV were the champions of this event that's happening today, the North American version last year, both the online AEOS Cup and the in-person NAIC. And my personal goal is to cast some of these great players at Worlds in 2024. And that can't happen without your guys' support. So those of you guys that are watching this live, thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, also thank you. Cool. So what is AEOS Cup or EUIC? So AEOS Cup is an annual event. This year, it's an inter-regional in-person event taking place at EUIC, the European International Circuit. At EUIC, we have VGC, the traditional Pokemon game, the TCG card game, Pokemon Go, and now Pokemon Unite as well. 16 total teams will be at this event. For the main event, technically there's like 23 open bracket teams. 8 of these teams are the 8 that we're going to talk about today in our presentation here. And the other 8 will be decided after a Swiss round where teams will be playing best of 1 rounds in a Swiss format. The way Swiss formats work is you play against a random team your first round. Your second round, the teams that went 1-0 are going to play against each other. The teams that went 0-1 are going to play against each other. The following round, teams that are 1-1 will play against each other, teams that are 2-0, teams that are 0-2, and they're going to go on through the Swiss bracket, through the Swiss rounds until 8 teams are done. 8 teams in the standings are done at the end of that. Those top 8 teams will advance into the 16-team group stage, where there'll be 4 groups of 4 teams in a double elimination bracket. 2 teams from each group will advance out of the group stages into the main event, where we'll see the top 8 teams fight it out in a double elimination bracket. So all of this is going to be taking place just a couple hours from now and the following day. So April 5th and April 6th. Cool. A little bit of a meta report. I'm not going to go through this entire tier list because we already did a video on this. So if you want to go and catch that, pause the video, stop what you're doing right now. You can check out my YouTube channel. Or you can take a screenshot of this and review it later. Basic thing that you need to know, in the Western meta, Buzzwole and Leafeon are some of the most powerful and sought after Pokemon. A lot of the draft revolves around them, but it doesn't mean those are the only Pokemon. Things like Espeon, Crustle, Blastoise, Eldegoss, Hoopa, these are all really, really important Pokemon in the meta. For some teams, the priority on these Pokemon will be different. We'll see some teams that have a much higher priority on Slowbro, because maybe they want to transition into a Comfey comp, and Slowbro is a really good Comfey counter. Some of these teams are really going to prioritize things like Espeon and Sylveon because they're more reliant on those mage evolutions. In Japan, very recently, we saw a very small priority on Buzzwole and higher priority on Blaziken and Mew. So regions have their own different variations. Keep an eye out for how it goes, but generally speaking, in the Western meta, this is roughly what you can expect to see in the tournament. Cool. So who are the teams that we have participating as their regional qualifying winners? So from NA, we've got Alter Ego, LAN, Latin America North, Rework, Respawn. This team last year was known as E7. This is like Sherlock and Reggie and those guys. LAS Fusion, so that's Latin America South. Brazil will be represented by Legacy. Last year, that was Dub Nation, Baby Mazo and the gang. If you're fans of them, keep an eye out for Legacy. EU, their champions were for free. So that's Gatlu and Zervis and those guys there. OCE is Antic Esports. These guys were Greater Zenith to start off the year, and I think towards the end of last year as well. So some talented, some veteran players on that team from OCE. One of the teams that I've worked with in the past as well. So personally, I am rooting for them as well, and as a part of this event. So those first 6 teams, they won their region's AEOS play-in events. The 2 teams after that were invited were from Japan, and I'm not exactly sure what parameters they were invited on, but these were the 2 teams from Japan that made it to the finals of ACL East. Kabby Chons won the whole ACL event. So they won a big tournament that involved a lot of the Eastern teams, Japan, APAC, India, etc. So these 2 Japanese teams are really strong. They have had results, but they had a bit of a different route to be able to get invited to this event as well. Other than these 8 teams, you might be asking, yo, where's Luminosity? Where's YT? What happened to Phil? Where's Yalla Bingo? Where's Kid Tens, right? All of these teams and more are going to be in the open bracket. These teams were not winners of their regional tournaments. And as a result, they have to go through that Swiss round that I talked about earlier. So while we're going to be covering those teams live, there's simply too many open bracket teams for us to really deep dive into. And these are the teams that won their regions tournaments. They're automatically guaranteed to be at least top 16. Some of those open bracket teams, some of your favorite teams might not even make it past that first stage of the tournament. So yeah, continue to root for your teams, Nouns, YT, LG, whoever that might be. But these are the 8 teams that we're going to be covering today. So starting off with North America's representative, Alter Ego. Now these guys, their roster, they've got JL, Kratos, Roland, Joey, and Machizel. The first 3 members of their team, they've been around the Unite scene much longer. They've been a part of experienced teams. Half of this team is made up by ASU, the team that had won a lot of NA tournaments last year. They placed 3rd at NAIC. They placed 2nd at AEOS Cup last year. So these players have had a lot of results. They've won a lot of monthly tournaments, and they're coming here trying to win their first major event. So definitely a good, talented squad. Joey and Machizel, both a little bit new, but not to be underestimated. Joey, for a lot of teams, is considered to be one of the best tree players in NA, potentially one of the best in the world, but definitely within NA, he has a lot of respect when it comes to his tree play. Machizel, you guys might remember, back in February, the AEOS Cup play-ins, he piloted Machamp, a very good Machamp in the grand finals against Luminosity, where they did end up bracket resetting and winning that series. But even outside of Machamp, Machizel can play things like Zoroark, more traditional things like Buzzswole he can play. He has a good hero pool. Definitely a talented player. So this is going to be one of the teams, I think, that people are going to have a lot of expectations on. NA being, the defending champion, world champion region. So the expectations are that they'll do well, and they have a history of success as well. Keep an eye out for JL picking things like Sableye and Hoopa. I think he's one of the few people in this tournament that has had tournament success playing Sableye. So if those types of Pokemon are your style, this might be a team you want to follow along with. Roland is someone who's had a lot of different role swaps. He played tank last year. He swapped to the top lane for a little bit. This season, he's kind of playing an attack / jungler / top hybrid. Sometimes they'll send Joey because he's that tree player. Joey will become like the core tree, right? Roland will reprise his role as defender and play defender again. And, they can switch around their roles really well. Kratos was their sub, ASU's sub at Worlds. He practiced and traveled with the team. He's been a part of a lot of successful teams. He was on GT's roster last year for a little bit as well. So talented players coming from a strong region. They did win their February play-ins to get this spot. But in March Cup, so NA and EU and all the major regions had a tournament after the play-ins and before the LAN event today. And at that event, they actually went 4th. Nemesis was the team that ended up winning that.
Caster on scene.
Thank you for the resub, Spell I Cup. So yeah, this team did end up going 4th in their most recent tournament. So they are coming in not off of a hot win, but still, you know, they got their travel paid for. They're feeling good. And one of the things that we're going to be going over, so each team will go over their roster, a little, you know, some facts about their team, what they like to play, what their most recent finish might have been at the last event. And then also, you know, let's take a look at their final game as well. So we're right here. Let's turn this down just a bit. So you can see Machizzle's on that Machamp. He's going to try to get some positioning here in the end game. Joey's on his tree, right? I saw it was really hyping up his tree play. But what I want you guys to do is to pay attention to the Machamp. So right now he's got positioning here. If you look at my cursor on the minimap, he's in this top left L flank bush. This is where a lot of all-rounders and flanking types of Pokemon are going to be playing out of, right? They want to be able to get positioning, take this flank, and basically approach the enemy from a good angle. Zugrug, seasoned defender player, knows that he needs to scout that out. He gets vision of it. But Machizzle, he maintains his composure. He goes back inside that bush. He knows it's not scouted out. He manages to get positioning right behind them, and this is where he Unite moves. Out of vision, explodes in with the dynamic, finds an excellent Unite move, 3 KOs off of his Unite. And in a competitive game of Pokemon Unite, if you get 2 or 3 KOs at the objective, your team's going to instantly turn around and do this objective. They got Roland on that Sylveon, burning it down. Kratos can play Red Bear. They've got the secure, and the game's over, right? And all this started by Machizzle. Sometimes their end game is going to come from Joey finding something. Sometimes JL is going to find an opening. That team, a lot of playmakers on the team, definitely a team you might want to root for. But cool, maybe North America is not your cup of tea, and you're a Latin America fan. Maybe that's part of the region you're from. Maybe that's what you want to support. Well, look no further than Rework Respawn, featuring Latin America North, a region that might have in the past been represented by Mexico and some of the surrounding nations there, now rebranded to Latin America North. This team previously was known as E7. They were sponsored by that team. Not to be confused with their competitors who are now E7 Janice or Giannis. I think the sponsorships might have swapped there. But in the past, these guys were E7. Now they're Rework Respawn. His team had a lot of expectations from the NA America side of the world at Worlds, but they weren't able to participate with their full roster at Worlds. I think they had some travel or visa issues. I'm not too sure. But traditionally, this has been a team that goes a little bit under the radar for you guys, more so as an American audience. Because these guys are double speedster fanatics, whether it's Sherlock or Reggie on one of the speedsters, they excel at. Hitman on this team, he ends up playing a lot of their mages, really, really solid, just a really good roster. But if you're a fan of Zoroark and speedsters, oftentimes you'll see this team really go deep into that type of strategy. So they won their play-ins in February, and they were able to make it here as a part of this main event. Like Alter Ego, the team we just talked about, their March Cup performance was also not a win. They managed to get to the finals, where they ended up dropping to Hoenn, which is now E7, which is a new E7, so don't get that confused. But the team they lost to was a team that has Kira on it. You guys might be familiar with him. He plays with a lot of NA players. But yeah, they weren't able to win their last event, but they did win their event to get here. Let's take a look at a bit of their gameplay here as well. So we're in the final 2 minutes. And it looks like I have the wrong VOD here. Hold on. But their VOD should be like right here. I knew something would go wrong, guys, so it's fine. But I do remember their game, and I remember what I wanted to show you guys. Okay. So on the left side right here, if I can get to the timestamp, there we go. On the left side right here, we have Rework Respawn. They're in their grand finals. This is the grand finals of their play-in tournament. They've got Clefable, Candle, Dodrio, Umbreon, Lucario. So not double speedster necessarily this game, but they've got that, you know, double melee type of strategy. They have Lucario, Dodrio to be able to access the backline. And another thing, good time for us to mention this right now as well, is Chandelure is a Pokemon that is very, very popular within the Latin America regions. Rain, thank you so much for the resub. So here we see the enemy team, the Dragonite is able to get the secure with the Hyper Beam. So they're actually down a Regibuff, down 100 points as well in their final game. But yeah, you'll see a lot of these Latin America teams really prefer Candle, whether it's Latin America North, South, or Brazil. We'll see what effect Candle has on the rest of the tournament here as well. Okay, so we're at the Ray fight. Our team representatives, Rework, Respawn, they are down 100 points. Beautiful Unite move combo by Sherlock, able to force out this Blissey Unite move. Another Drill Peck takes down the Blissey. Sylveon's caught in the mean look. Candle is living on 1 HP. Reggie just barely ends up going down. And, you know, this fight, they do need to stall out the Regibuff the other team has. Their Clefable ends up getting caught as well. And right now, the game could be really rough. You know, if Hoenn went mid and started hitting it right now, they might have a good chance. I think that's what they're going to do. Sherlock, able to stall that out, is able to just barely get onto that Sylveon. Uses very smart Drill Peck to be able to heal himself onto the bees. Hitman, this game playing an E-Speed Lucario, so kind of similar to that double speedster. And this is where the game starts to open up for them. They get a mean look on the Dragonite. Ray still hasn't died. Minute left in this game. And, you know, Candle is stalling as much as they can. And, you know, this is where they show some really good macro gameplay. They know they're behind. They send their Dodrio to the offlane to cap. Dodrio's caps goes in thirds. So Dodrio is able to get 1/3 of their cap, forces the Dragonite's Unite move on the other side of the map. Dragonite forced to respawn there, right? Now that they know the Dragonite, they were able to pull the Dragonite away from the fight. Sherlock does a really good job trying to find a flank here. At the same time, Candle gets a KO as well. And now they're going to look to go for even more scores. 20 seconds left in a game where a lot of teams would count out some players. They're just so composed in this late game. They get a 10, they get a 27 here. They put themselves in the lead, and it all started by Sherlock on the speedster play, separating the Dragonite from the rest of the fight, getting his 1/3 cap, making that space. They get a KO. They all collapse, and just like that, with a couple seconds left on the clock, they're able to get their win. And this was the game that stamped their ticket to London and got them here to the event that we're going to be watching today. So, you know, one thing that separates, you know, good teams with great teams is teams that don't necessarily need Rayquaza to win the game, right? They were behind going into Ray. It's not like they defended a lead, right? They had to look for their opportunities. They had to split the enemy team. Sherlock on that Dodrio did such a good job opening up that map, getting that score, and then the rest is history. So really nice end game by them. Definitely a team to root for. If you like double speedster, if you like E-Speed, if you like those skill expression melee type of Pokemon, Rework, Respawn might be the team for you. But cool. Joining them will be their Latin America counterparts. So that was Latin America North. Here we've got Latin America South. So this is Team Fusion. Of all the teams that we're going to be covering today, this is probably the team I have the least experience with. I haven't played much against these teams. You know, Rework, Respawn, the old D7, I've scrimmed them plenty of times. Alter Ego, those guys we've been playing against for several years, me and my teammates in the past have. These guys, you know, I've seen them around. Tempo, I know, really, really high skill player. The rest of these players also very, very talented. I know they've had success in their region in the past as well. And I believe this is the only team that got invited that not only won their play-ins, but also won their following March Cup tournament as well. So by technicality, this is the most successful team this year that's going to be at the event. They're the only team to have gone back-to-back and won both of their tournaments, I think. We'll see. I don't remember for the rest of them. So definitely these guys are solid. Zynus, Anemo, Draken, Tempo, and Kia. And very similar story, right? These teams love to play things like Candle. They love to play Dodrio. Very heavy focus on these melee type of Pokemon. And this game we're going to see a Mimikyu. A Pokemon maybe you've heard me say I'm not a big fan of. And we'll see how Fusion is able to dissect this game as well. So Fusion, the team we're covering, they're on the right side this time. So the orange side team, they've got that Zoroark, again, very heavy on that melee type of playstyle, playing into a Dodrio. Zoroark typically has a bad matchup, or a kind of hard matchup into Umbreon and Mimikyu, but we'll see how Tempo is able to make space here. Draken, watch this Rock Tomb that he's able to find, sets up that KO onto the Umbreon, and look just how Fusion is able to continue the tempo from just one KO that they get. Right, they follow, they get some, they get the Mimikyu low, they force out the Mimikyu's Blissey's Unite move onto the Mimikyu. Tempo keeping up the tempo, able to find a full combo on that Blissey. And again, these teams are going for a score. They know Ray is a win condition, but scoring as well. Tempo illusions the combo from the Dodrio, Unite moves to get a shield and a speed bonus, able to live, boosted auto from the Mew, takes down the Dodrio, right? They put themselves in the lead. They just need a win time. Beautiful Blastoise Unite move catches out a bunch of people. 5-man team wipe off the back of a really good engage, whether it's the Crustle, the Mew making their own play, Tempo on the Zoroark finding their opportunities as well. And I mean, this game is a very simple game where it's just get Unite, Unite at Ray, win the game. And look at this little Congo line that they do as well, putting on a show. So again, if Latin America is a region you want to support, Fusion's a team you can't go wrong with. They love the speedster play. Mew's a fun Pokemon to watch. Might see a lot of Clefable in these games, which has been nerfed. Might be replaced with Hoopa a little bit in this tournament. But a very talented team nonetheless. We'll see some Candle play from this region as well, similar to the last team. And if we don't want to talk about Latin America, we want to talk about Pokemon like Candle. I think Brazil is the region that I associate with that the most, right? And not only is it Brazil, but it's some fan favorites from no matter where you are. This is Mazo, Pseudo, Fob, Lel, Wolf. All these guys have been playing together for a while now. They found success, you know, they've been at Worlds. Mazo and the rest of his gang has been at Worlds. The last two Pokemon Unite Worlds. This team essentially was the team that took down Talibobo last year in the group stage. So if you're a Talibobo fan last year, the reason why they weren't able to advance to the groups, highly, you know, dependent on this series that they had against what's now considered Legacy. They ended up falling 2-1 in that series. And, you know, just an overall really strong play. I think a lot of their play is dictated around how they like to do their jungle splits. So you're going to see Mazo play a lot of level 4 Pokemon. You know, if there's an EV guy in the tournament, Mazo is one of them, right? Whether it's Leafeon, Sylveon, Glaceon, maybe even Espeon, right? Mazo plays the evolutions. He plays the Meowscarada. He plays speedsters. He's a big Dodrio fan as well. But basically what Mazo likes to do is he's going to get the red buff, go gank top, and then his team immediately at the start of the game, their bottom lane attacker is going to play something more greedy. So something like Candle, something like Gardevoir, maybe Venusaur, and they're going to take that bottom blue buff and then immediately go into the lane. That way they can set themselves up to have level 5 bottom. Mazo only needs level 4 generally to be successful on his side. Their top laner is going to be able to get some experience because the map will open up for them. And that's how they approach the game. Duskrunner, thank you for the tier 1 sub.
Inder clap.
Inder clap. Thank you so much. And that's what you're going to see a lot of. From this team, they actually ended up falling second in their March Cup to DreamMax. Unfortunately, DreamMax also a team that isn't able to come to the event today. But, you know, not bad finishing first into second. Not as good as Fusion technically. But nonetheless, let's take a look here at their game. So I think here what I've got for you guys is the early game. So Legacy, our team that we're spectating, is on the right side. And remember what I talked about, right? They're gonna send Mazo, is gonna get the buff top side. A little bit of lag there. So Mazo's on Leafeon. He's gonna get the Xatu into red buff top side. And look at your mini map. You're gonna see the Candle, instead of immediately going to the lane, they're gonna go to that blue buff. And then they're gonna rotate to the lane. So just look at your mini map. Candle's on the blue. Mazo's gonna do the red, right? And one of the things Mazo loves to do, and you're gonna see it, I think, this game as well, is typically you'll see that one buff, red buff ganker use that one buff, and then go into one of the lanes, preferably the top lane, and try to get value there. What Mazo likes to do is likes to take that red buff and then invade the enemy jungle. Now, the team that they're playing into, they know that that's what Mazo likes to do, right? So their meta is kind of developed. So what they do is they send the Eldegoss with the Metagross to help the Eldegoss and Metagross clear the jungle a little bit faster. That way Mazo's gank can be nullified in a bit. But see how Legacy is one step ahead of that, and they're able to overcome that. Because they know that the support is going to be helping in the jungle, their top laners are going to play really, really aggressive. And unfortunately, we don't have the camera here, but just look at your mini-map. That's where the game is played. It's on your mini-map. So their top lane knows that the Eldegoss is going to be helping clear the jungle, right? To the point where the Eld is on the blue buff with this Beldum. Why? Because if not, Mazo, from right here, look at my cursor, Mazo's going to gun into their jungle and Solar Blade that blue buff down there. So the Eldegoss is clearing it, but Legacy knows this, so they send both of their top laners to play really aggressive on the Buzzwole. They deny everything from the Buzzwole, right? Mazo's going to go into the jungle. He's going to go and see, hey, what's going on? Can I steal anything? You see him, right? He's walking. He's into the enemy jungle. He's not able to get anything, right? But because he forced the enemy team to clear in that way, topside Fob is already 4.5, and all of his farm is still up. And now, and again, cameraman just on the wrong moment, wrong time. Wolf, nice last hit. But Mazo helps them secure that middle piece of farm with the Solar Blade. He's going to make sure their team doesn't lose this. Now, all of a sudden, Fob is level 5. Wolf on the bottom side is level 5. Mazo has his level 4. Their support has their level 4. And now the early game is in such a nice dominating position, right? We compare the XP that Legacy has to FA Brazil, right? Their top laner is level 4, not level 5, like Fob is 5 on Blastoise. Their support's level 3. Unlike Lel, who's level 4. And yes, their jungler is level 5, but Mazo only needs 4 to be successful, right? And the tempo that they create from here, the last hits that they're able to get, this KO that they pick up on the Buzz, which ends up being really close. Metagross does get some return KOs, but the opening that they're able to find out of all of this, combined with Wolf getting that blue buff, being able to be level 5 to start the game, sets the tempo for experience throughout this game. And, you know, as we get to the late game, Legacy is able to continue developing a lead. They get to the Ray fight, and eventually they do win this game. I think this game actually ends in a pretty close fashion, similarly. So we see Legacy is actually down by 50 points. And, you know, things happen. They might have fumbled their lead, but they do a really good job at setting up their leads, which is what I love to see. They know the enemy team cannot, right? And these are things that go under the radar, right? But they know the other team doesn't have Pokemon that are good at hitting Rayquaza, right? Buzzwole, Mew, Metagross, these are weak Rayquaza hitting Pokemon. So that's why they're able to clear that Regieleki topside. If the other team had things like Gardevoir, Sylveon, Lucario, Spin Blastoise, these really good Ray hitters, you would see Legacy drop that Regieleki and immediately go mid. But they're smart. They know the enemy team's comp. They know they can't flip mid, so they can play a little bit more patient here. 30 seconds do get burned out. And, you know, they're the team that's behind. They need to make a play. They do a nice little rotation here. Buzz, Browalt onto the Buzz, 4-man gank. Now, they have a 20-second window to make something happen, right? If they don't make something happen in the next 20 seconds, there will be another team fight where the enemy team has 5 Unite moves to our team having 4. We might have even burned this Blastoise one, so it might be 3. So, you know, immediately Mazo Solar Blading onto Ray. They're dumping their damage onto Ray. They know that this game might need to end in a flip. Now that they see FA Brazil is a little bit lit, they're going to turn their attention to this team fight. Metagross is trying to chase down, gets that Unite move. And we don't see it on screen, but Wolf excellently plays their eject button, able to eject out of it. They get fly rolled on the Clefable, able to take down that Metagross who dove in. They get the Umbreon KO here as well. But remember, they had that 20-second window before Buzz came. Were they able to make something happen? Yes, they got 2 KOs. but they used all their Unite moves for this, so they know Rain needs to die, because if we come back and take another fight, they're gonna have the Buzz Unite to none of our Unites. The Buzz is looking, they turned their attention to Buzz. Mazo's like, okay, maybe we're not getting Ray, I need to go and score. They go downstairs to go and score as 3. They get their 100, but Mew, FA Brazil, Mew on the other side, excellently played, goes top. Mazo's not able to stop it. The Legacy's back down by 10 points, and just check out the slow bro here. The Pseudo comes in, right? That 11's not enough to put them in the lead, puts himself on the edge, and he expertly walks to the edge of the pad, manages to get his 23, and that's all that was needed from Legacy to stamp their ticket to London. So again, right, these tournaments all come down, right? And I love the commentators, they're so hype. Let's not bash them. I love for their love for the game. But right, remember what I said, what separates a good team from a great team are the teams that are able to stay composed in the late game, understand the scoring situation, and be able to go for those plays, right? They knew that based on the points that they were behind by, that once those hundreds were scored off, that they still needed to get some smaller scores in. So Lel's cap was important, but Pseudo walking to the edge of the map and being able to get that last score was exactly what they needed to be able to win this game. So that coupled with their early game pressure, definitely a team to look out for. Like I said, Mazo is going to be on those evolutions, on those speedsters. Wolf is going to be able to play a little greedy, slightly greedier Pokemon. And then Fob, you know, he can carry on anything, whether it's Lucario, Blastoise. You see a lot of different builds. Fun team to root for. One of the teams that I'm going to be excited to root for as well, just because they're friends of me and friends of the stream. Cool. So now, you know, we travel all the way from, you know, Brazil. We take a flight to Europe, right? The quote unquote home team, right? The event's taking place in Europe. These are your European champions. They did win their play-ins, right? So this team is comprised of Zervis, Chelvin, Seryu, Zante, and Gatlu. Some of these members, so Zervis was on Talibobo last year, who are the EU favorites throughout the year. The only team that gave Talibobo a huge run for their money. Marcel, thank you for the prime.
Note.
The only team to give Talibobo, Zervis's old team, a run for their money was Nouns last year. Who was on Nouns last year? Who was a big part of Nouns last year? Gatlu, right? So those two forces come in, coupled with a bunch of talented players from EU, players that have had success in their past as well, worlds level players, players that have played at LAN events before, right? Chelvin, Serio, Zante, these guys are all really talented players. They come together and they're able to create a really strong team in EU. And maybe to some players, it would be considered an upset. I think that would be fair to say. A lot of people are expecting Nouns this year to be able to have success. But For Free has kind of replaced that hype that Nouns had. Not to say that they've been perfect though, right? So they had a really strong showing in February. March Cup comes, they get to the finals again. They get a rematch versus Yala Bingo, and this time they kind of fold versus Yala Bingo. So while they might have had a lot of eyes on them to start off the year, I think now teams are like, oh, maybe they're not immortal, right? Yala Bingo definitely had their way with them in March. Yala Bingo is also going to be a team that's going through the open bracket. So there's a lot of good European teams to look out for, whether it's this team, Yala Bingo that I said, Nouns is going to be going through the open bracket as well. But they're the ones that won their play-ins, and they're the ones that are, you know, deserving of their spot in the presentation here. Let's go ahead and open up their game here as well. We've got the last 2 minutes here between For Free on our left side and Yala Bingo on the right. So the purple side team here, For Free, you know, pretty good XP advantage that they've been able to get themselves on level 14 on their Leafeon. Gatlu's on the Blastoise this game, and Gatlu's the one I want you guys to focus on, right? They've got a good XP lead here, and I think they've got the momentum as well. Just throughout this tournament. But one of the nice things about this event, or about this team, I should say, is that Gatlu is a really flexible player, and almost to his detriment at times, right? But he's a winner, and you got to give him credit where credit's due, right? You would look at this draft and you would see that Surf Blastoise, Hydro Pump Blastoise is super strong here, right? They've got double melee, Metagross and Blaziken, Pokemon that you want to push away from your team. In fact, I know players that will not play things like Metagross or Blaziken if the other team has Blastoise, because they're so annoyed by that Surf and Hydro Pump that they wouldn't do it. Gatlu says, that might be strong, but what if I went Spin? A build that's kind of out of favor nowadays, especially as of late. But Gatlu still goes for the Spin. Why? Because their team has solid damage already. They have, you know, Spin coupled with Hyper Voice. Hyper Voice shreds those defenses, special defenses, makes Spin do more damage. They have a good last hit already with Leafeon, so if they can get objectives low and Leafeon can secure it, Galu's job is to burn the objective and deal damage. And that's exactly what he ends up doing in this game. So where you might expect to see Surf be something really popular, he pops that Unite move just to get things going, and he's just spinning on the other team, right? And honestly, looking at this draft, I would have said, this is a horrible game for Spin. You're going to get mean looked. You're going to get, you know, you're not going to have the CC to be able to deal with these melee carries. But Gatlu understands that their team needs a frontline damage dealer this game. He needs to be annoying. He needs to stay alive. And just look, double KO from him, sets up another siege on the bottom side of the map, right? Continues just spin pressure after spin pressure after spin pressure. If they need to turn around and hit Rayquaza, they can. If they don't need to, they won't. They're going to start burning it, force the enemy team to fight here, all while Leafeon is scoring. Develop a good lead. 15 seconds left. Doesn't matter whether they win or lose Ray from this point onwards, and they're able to come home with the victory. So when it comes to for free, a lot of things to look out for. A lot, like every player in their role is a talented player. Zervis, really good leader, really good support player. Chalvin's playing tank. He's done some role swaps throughout his career as well. But a solid team to root for. And if you like funny Pokemon, if you like Greedent, if you like Spin Blastoise, if you like those tanky all-rounder damage kind of roles, Galu's going to be able to fulfill that for you. Saryu, one of the OG E-Speed Lucario players as well. We don't know if he's going to bring that out during the tournament, but he's also a really talented player. So a lot of good things to root on that team as well. Cool. So let's temporarily leave London, because I know the event's in London, but we're going to take a flight to Australia and the OCE region. So here we have Antic Esports, remember, formerly known as Greater Zenith. These guys had a decent showing, some of their members last year at during the UCS event. Unfortunately, they didn't qualify for Worlds, but they do have some of their players that have been on the world stage, right? So this team comes together from some of the other OCE teams in their respective regions. And this is a region that oftentimes gets clowned on a little bit. You know, one of the big controversies this year was that they only had 12 or so teams sign up for their UCS event, whereas NA had hundreds, EU had over 100. So a smaller region, but not necessarily one to downplay, right? They won their play-ins. They came second in their following tournament. And they've been boot camping. They've been working really hard. So if you're looking for like a true underdog story, you want to believe in the underdogs, this is a team for you to root for. Also, I know just for a fact, my chat and other Twitch chats get really hyped up when there's a female player on the team. Liz is on the team. I don't want to assume their gender, but I have coached them before. Pretty sure they're a female, and that's cool to hype for. I always love seeing women in esports. So if that's something you're, you know, if that's the reason why you want to support the team, that's good enough for me too. But other than that, Suluwu and Anon, those two are my homies. I hung out with them at Worlds. Robbie and Challenge, they're in my chat. Suluwu is female? Maybe, no. Challenge is in the chat all the time as well. So really fun guys, really fun team overall to root for. And let's take a look at their team.
Quite early onto Zoroark.
So Anon, he's like their speedster guy. You know, he likes playing the fast guys. So you'll see him on things like Zoroark. Suluwu might play things like Dodrio for them. They're not afraid to play some of the more meta things like Buzzwole and Leafeon as well. But at the same time, you know, this is a region where the games can seem kind of weird. Like we see an Espeon Unite randomly be used. We saw our Buzzwole lose their eject there at the end as well. So, you know, things can definitely seem a little bit weird, but I think it's a region and a team overall that you want to be rooting for. So left side, Greater Zenith, they're up by over 100 points here. They're just trying to find some space here, draw out the game, stall out the game as much as they can, right? Buzzwole gets caught out by a little bit, uses his Unite move. They have their healer following up. Their team has changed a little bit from this tournament onto the main event. Both their carries, though, they do go down. Buzz and Zorak end up going down. But I really like challenge play here. You know, he recognizes that they can't give up their Rayquaza or they're going to lose the game. So all he's doing is playing around damage. Baits them to go onto him, uses his Unite move as like as a countermeasure. 20 seconds, Ray's going down. Uh-oh, we lost Ray. But, you know, doesn't mean you're out of the game yet. So they get 1 cap, 2 caps, which would put them behind, but challenged was really smart. And he immediately, look at this, immediately runs top to go and score, right? And the Venusaur, the one that gets their score, they try to back in time to be able to stop him, but it's just milliseconds that make the difference. And challenge gets the buzzer beater, and this game comes on the back of another last second score, right? And this isn't the first time we've seen this in any of the regions that we've looked at, right? And again, I'm going to say it every time. What separates a good team or good players from great players are ones that stay composed in the late game, right? So challenge didn't freak out, right? Didn't freak out when his team inted and died. He didn't freak out when Ray was lost. He stayed composed and he was able to stay locked in. And he's the reason why they win this game. So definitely a good team to root for. Underdog story for sure. And one of the teams that I'm rooting for, I want them to win. I've worked with them a little bit, so I'm happy to see them succeed as well. Cool. So let's take a flight from down under. We're going to go up into Japan, the team that hosted the World Championships in 2023. And we're going to be looking at Team Kabby Chons. The Team KS, Kabby Chons, these guys were the ACL Grand Final champions. So when all the Asia teams came together, India, APAC, Japan, Korea, all those Eastern teams came together, these guys are the ones that were able to win that event off of some really, really skilled gameplay, right? They've got players like Tomato, which you might recognize as a veteran tank player at this point. Vitopo, he plays a lot of their speedster guys. And, you know, if you want to root for a team that doesn't follow the traditional Western meta, the Japanese teams like Kabby Chons might be one of your teams to be able to go for.
Impressive.
The other thing is the Japanese name for Snorlax is Kabigon, and their name Kabby Chons is a cute way of saying Snorlax in Japanese. But if you're a Snorlax fan, just inherently you might want to root for this team as well. What I want to showcase to you guys here, and it's something that I want to start dubbing as the Japanese clear, okay? And while you'll see, you know, I talked about Legacy. They like to do their 1 buff, Mazo into top. Wolf does their shares that blue buff and goes bottom. This team, right, Japan has a special way of clearing the jungle. I want you guys to pay very close attention to this. Look at the enemy jungle. And what Vidopo does is he gets this Xatu low for their Sylveon, and he's not going to actually take it, right? So imagine this, a jungler that doesn't take their Xatu.
On the right side.
And watch what they do. They give that Xatu to the Sylveon.
For the
and the reason that they do that, and you're not going to see the mini-map quite yet, but the reason that they do that is that combined with the starting farm that you get through the lane is going to guarantee Sylveon gets to start the game level 4. And it's going to leave just enough farm for Vitopo on the Zoroark to be able to clear the rest of their jungle. And then they're going to path in a way to the bot side where they're going to get some of the farm that the bottom laners leave. So look at my cursor right now, right? If you can see my cursor right here, right? And you know what? I'll point to it right here. You see that farm right there? That's the farm the Zoroark's going to take. So he's here. He's going to clear this. He's going to clear that, into that, and then do that. That'll be his level 5. The Sylveon did the Xatu, walks all the way up. They're going to start the game level 4. And their bottom lane, yes, they're going to sacrifice some experience, but it's going to come with their Zoroark and Sylveon getting to start the game level 4 and level 5 respectively. So they're going to play aggressive. They know that their Zoroark's going to be coming down and taking over that farm momentarily. Sylveon already level 4 at the start. Zoroark's doing that clear. And then just watch. Zoroark's over here. He actually illusions to the farm, so it looks a little different. And he ends up taking their back farm, gets level 5, right? And it's not done there, right? He uses that bot side to get level 5. And then they also have a Comfey. So now he's going to rotate all the way from the bottom lane, go top to pick up his Comfey, right? Terrorize the other team on the bees. So he's been in 2 places already before the first set of bees have even spawned. Instantly do the bees. And now because he's picked up his Comfey, they can go and jungle invade, right? And this is what Zoro Comfeys like to do best. And this is what you're going to see a lot from Kabby Chons. Early game aggression, just at the start of the second rotation in the jungle. Nothing can stop this Zoro Comfey. They're going to live in the enemy jungle, draw out resources. Oh, 3 people have drawn out. Now my Mew can play aggressive bot side. My Sylveon is in a fine 1v1 top side. They can never really do anything. They KO the Blissey. Doesn't get the illusion on the mean look, but I'm sure he'll get some of these this game. He gets the steal on the red buff as well. Almost KOs the Dragonite. Full heals there. Make sure he doesn't get grabbed. Slow smoke from the Comfey, and they're able to get out, right? So this early game aggression, whether it's on Zoroark, you might see them do clever clears like that to get a Blaziken level 5 with an evolution in the side lane. Definitely, if a team you want to see do something a little bit different and that's still very talented, this is a team for you to root for. I imagine a lot of the Western teams are going to be prepared for how these guys clear the jungle, but maybe in the open bracket, we might not see, you know, if we have a team that comes to the open bracket, they might not be prepared for some of this. But cool. So that's one of our Japanese teams, right? What about our other Japanese team? Well, look no further than Unite Holics, right? If you've been a fan of Japanese teams, right, or the global meta in Pokemon Unite, Mame is a name that you've probably heard since season 1. Right? He's had a lot of success both on the ladder, competitive success within Japan. He was at Worlds last year. They had a decent run at Worlds. They've been able to pick up some good players alongside that. And, you know, we saw Unite Holics even a couple weeks ago or last week play in the Japanese qualifiers alongside Kabby Chons. But the last major event that I want to bring up when it comes to Unite Holics is actually their grand final game in ACL Japan East. So this is like the ACL regional tournament where they face Kabby Chons, the team that we just talked about. Unite Holics, you know, they'll play a lot of the standard meta stuff that you'll see, you know, things like Blastoise, Eldegoss. They like to add in some things. They'll play some Buzzwole, they'll play Inteleon, whatever it might be. But they also like to splash in some weird stuff. So this game, we see them playing Lapras.
Backcap right here.
But Mame's playing like a defender Lapras, and Mame might be role swapping as well. But you're also going to see these guys to this day to play things like, you know, they'll play score comp. I know these guys aren't afraid of bringing out the submission Machamp. These guys will play Zeraora nowadays, right? So if you want a team that can pick weird stuff, guaranteed there's a chance that these guys will have something that you've never seen before, some kind of tech. But yeah, this team did actually have a small roster change. I think Utah mentioned it. Beckon did have to leave the team, so they didn't have him earlier. So they might be weaker because of that. But regardless, Mame is one of the main, one of the, minds of the game from a long time now. And just in general, this team is not afraid to be weird. Guaranteed, I think you'll see something weird from them in the main event. If that's a team you want to root for, definitely something you can look out for. Mame is going to go for the back cap here on the Lapras, knowing that he can use his Unite move to get back into the fight really easily. The rest of the team taking a very defensive pressure. So look, it's a 2-point game. It comes from the back of Mame's back cap, finds a nice Unite move, forces out the Eldegoss and Blastoise Unite simply just from a Lapras Unite move. Enemy Mew forced to Unite as well. A couple people on his team are going down. Rayquaza's getting low, and Mame, out of everyone, somehow able to secure it, maybe with a water pulse, not sure what it was through, but somehow Mame gets it done, right? But it's not over, right? They have this Mew scoring, they're able to stop the Mew score. There's gonna be a top cap, they know they can't go for it. That's KS on the left side Unite Holics on the right side. So it's a 2-point game. And remember what I said, what separates good teams from great teams is what they're able to do in the last 2 minutes. When Rayquaza is said and done, how can they be the difference makers? So it's a close battle, 2 points, 1 minute left. And we got Unite Holics on the right side. So they're trying to farm any Unite moves that they can, make sure they defend. Even though it's a 2-point game, neither team truly knows which one's in the lead, right? And when it's this close, I promise you both teams have no idea. Sometimes teams will operate under the assumption that we are ahead. Sometimes they'll pretend like we need to absolutely defend. And this game, KS is like, look, we might be behind. We need to go for a score. Their pockets are full though. So, you know, Unite Holics does a good job staggering their backs. Mame able to sneak away for another cap, right? So Mame really putting his team on the back. He gets his base off. Now he knows that he can jump here. And with 10 seconds left, they're able to secure the game. Right, so a lot of focus on Mame. He's the one that got the initial back cap. He's the one that secured Ray. He's the one that got the second back cap to secure the win. Regardless, though, all the players on this team, right? You can't have a team have this much success, right, and be able to win a big tournament like this if the rest of the people on the team aren't also talented, right? So Beckon, who they're not playing with anymore, but Yupono, the rest of those guys, they're going to be able to put on a show for you guys. So, you know, Kabby Chons, while their play might be more centered around speedsters, you know, maybe bust out the Scyther, bust out the Zoroark, stuff like that. Unite Holics, they're more around weird stuff and macro stuff. You know, whether they want to bust out the Lapras, which is a nerfed Pokemon, might see some Machamp, some Zeraora, some Spin Pump Blastoise, whatever it might be. They've got a lot of different things in their tool house that they can be able to use. So that's Unite Holics. And that is also the rest of our teams. Do you guys let me know? Do you guys have a team that is your favorite now? Is there a team that, you know, maybe you didn't know about that you're going to be rooting for? Personally, it's hard for me to pick one of these teams out of these 8. But I have a soft spot for NA because I'm from NA. I always want to see NA do well. Brazil, Baby Mazo is the homie. I love Brazil. I got to root for them. Down under at OCE, those are my actual boys. I can't not root for them, so I am cheering for them. In Japan, both Kabby-chans and Mame's squad, Unite Holics, they're easy teams to root for. But I think just because I think out of principle, I'm going to be rooting against the Japanese teams. Because remember, the stakes for this tournament, the winner of EUIC is going to get a direct ticket and paid travel to Pokemon Unite Worlds in Hawaii this year. And it'd be a shame, I guess, for me to see a Japanese team take away that slot from an NA or EU team or an OCE team or a LATAM team. So I don't want to see that happen, but you know, the team that wins is the team that deserves to win. For free, I think For Free and Yala Bingo are teams that could go, you know, it's like 1A versus 1B when it comes to EU. Both of the teams, there were the 2 teams that were in the finals of both the tournaments. They both went to bracket resets. They were both really close. So EU, either one of those teams, I think my pick out of EU, just because I'm biased, has to be Nouns. I've played with Toon. I've known Toon for over 10 years. And I love the rest of the guys on that team. So for me, it's hard to pick a team. But I see a lot of For Free fans. I see a lot of Kabby-chan fans. I see a lot of different fans. So yeah, I'm excited for this tournament. Definitely going to be a lot of fun. I saw someone say, is India not playing in this? So no, the only Eastern teams that were invited to play were the 2 Japanese teams that we covered. And then the only other Eastern team I think that's at this event is SAR from APAC, which is like Ice and CZ Ray and those guys, like some really good guys. So yeah, I don't think there's not none Indian team at this event, not really any other Eastern teams either. At Worlds itself though, there will be an Indian team, there will be a Korean team, there will be a much other Eastern teams. This is mostly a Western event where some of the Japanese teams were invited. Ice, Solo, Shingdi, yeah, those guys are great. Another team that I'm going to be rooting for.